weekend, let us know about that. And let me do a quick reset here. Bam, bam. You got 50 minutes on the clock. So David, another one of our newer faces to the shop. Max, kind of an old battler, if you will. And we're going to see a fun list. Now, if you guys are familiar, you've watched the stream before, you might be remember someone by the name of Real Eminem, Dionysus Bacchus, as you will, for Twitch and all that good stuff. He played this on stream quite a bit for Modern Magic Mondays. Also was running around at the Pro Tour. A couple people were playing it. I think there was at least one player that had a tweak to it, was running Tezzeret the Seeker in his list. I think it was a Japanese player. Shaheen Sarani was also running the list, which I think a lot of people were super shocked by. Instead of him running Control, he was on this. So we'll talk a little bit about this list before we go. Like, Eldrazi Tron is an old, familiar one, but it's basically like the updated version of Eggs. All right, if you guys ever had heard of a deck called Eggs, Second Sunrise and stuff like that was banned, so the Eggs deck kind of doesn't exist the way it used to exist. Kind of revolves around having particular creatures. Mirror Retriever, which is a 2-cost 1/1 mirror artifact creature that when it dies, you get to return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. All right, so then we got that in there. Scrap Trawler, which is our new creature from Kaladesh. It's a 3/2 3-cost artifact creature. When Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. So, as you might imagine, there are 32 artifacts in this list. There's a lot of artifacts in this list. And the artifacts that are in this list happen to be things like Mind Stone, Mox Opals, Chromatic Spheres, Chromatic Stars, these low-cost things. There's also Terrarian. It's a 1-cost artifact. Enters the battlefield, tap. You can pay 2, sack it to add 2 mana of any combination of colors to your mana pool. When it's put into the graveyard, you draw a card. So there's just like basically mana rocks type things. We've also got our Ichor Wellspring, which is a 2-cost artifact. Whenever this enters the battlefield or is put into the graveyard, you draw a card. So it looks like Darksteel, Mox Opal here into our Terrarian. And it does enter tap, so you do have that. But the big namesake for it is the Kirk Clan Ironworks, a 4-cost, which you sack an artifact, add 2 mana to your mana pool, and you ramp into a Hangerback Walker, really big kind of thing, or you've got a Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. So you just that's the objective of the deck, and we already see some of those pieces in there. Like the Ichor Wellspring is in his list, or in his hand right now. So he's up to 3 mana. So you can see the Sanctum of Ugin is a way to find that. So he did throw down the Ichor Wellspring. We'll be able to draw a card off of that. And you should see him kind of just laying out his artifacts here. Max side, he's basically trying to assemble Tron or try to get Eldrazi Temple down to basically start ramping out creatures. He's got a lot more threats early on, and David's going to have to kind of play this battle of, can he survive long enough to get to where he needs to in the game? Well, here's a Matter Reshaper, a 3/2 coming out. Just kind of initially starting out with a threat. Basically being scary already. Waste mana here. And again, because the list is full of artifacts, having the waste is fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, and a Hangerback Walker for 2. So this is nice because you can go wide with it. You can make a bunch of Thopters on it, and it only costs 1 to put a counter on it compared to Walking Ballista that costs 4. So there is that little bit of difference between the two. But really, it's a nice blocker, especially you can trade with the Matter Reshaper here, but Ghost Quarter could be a little bit annoying. So here's 3 damage coming across. David says, that's fine. I'll take 3. Not a big deal. And he'll drop down to 17. So he does have a couple more mana rocks in his hand available to be able to play. I think there was a Mind Stone sitting in his hand there. Of course, it's just a 2-cost, tap for a colorless mana, and you can pay 1 and sack it and draw a card. Okay, Everflowing Chalice here. It's a multi-kicker. You pay 2, you get to put a counter on it for each time it was kicked, and then you can tap for that amount of mana. So now it's got 2 on it, so he can choose to tap if he would like and get some mana, but actually he's going to sack the Terrarion there to be able to add 2 mana of any combination to his mana pool and be able to draw a card. Land drop is another Dark Steel Citadel. Basically says, hey, I'll put a counter on that. And pass turn. So you see it is a tap ability for the hanger back. So he cannot just kind of do it willy-nilly for free. Max, though, is working on assembling Tron here. You see he did sacrifice the Expedition map. And opting for a Tron piece instead of an Eldrazi Temple could mean that he has another Tron piece in his hand, or a map or something in order to find it. So does have that capability to be able to ramp up very quickly into some big creatures, Reality Smashers, things like that. He's got a temple out, so he essentially has access. He's got 3 mana here, or 4 mana if he's casting Eldrazi spells, and pretty much all the creatures are now access to either 4 or 5 mana, depending on what he's casting. And Reality Smasher. Yep, time to smash. Matter Reshaper and Reality Smasher. Putting on a swing for 8 points of damage there. And David sitting with no way to block. Actually, keeping that on blocking duty says, I'll come at you for 5, dropping you only to 12. So maybe a little bit worried about how the ramp is. How close is he at this point? We haven't found any of his retrievers, and that's part of his combo to get those back. You basically need like 2 scrap trawlers or a mirror retriever, that sort of thing. But we do see he is sitting there with the Mind Stone, kind of ready to go, but no creatures yet. All right. Here's the 3 mana. There we go. Finally have a scrap trawler. Okay, so he could say, all right, Scrap Trawler is now here. I can start to return artifacts now to my graveyard if I'd like. So he'll say, I would like to tap, sack this, draw a card. Cool. Trigger with the Scrap Trawler. Goes to the graveyard. I can return an artifact with converted mana cost to my graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. So if he had any 0 cost, right? Since that Mind Stone was a 1 cost, he could be able to bring it back. So if he could do some shenanigans with Mox Opals because he had a second Mox Opal in his hand there. So essentially where he's at now, if he did that, he could have been like, all right, Mox Opal, I will float a colorless, right? Or not a color, float a green. And then he'll play the second Mox Opal, killing 1 off, sacrifice the Mind Stone to get it back, and he can do this sort of back and forth, make a bunch of mana. But he's not in a point really where he can do a whole bunch because he only has 1 Scrap Trawler. So it's like you can make a bunch of mana and keep bringing that back essentially, and do these sort of shenanigans up to a point. But he's very limited on how much mana he can make too, and how far he can go with only 1 Scrap Trawler. So you kind of get a slim glimpse at what he could start to do with the deck. But Karn's gonna say, no. We're not gonna be putting up with your shenanigans here. I can start to exile stuff and really put a hurting on you. And Inventor's Fair is going to get exiled, which is, nice because he could start searching up for particular artifacts that he'd be interested in. Wow, another Matter Reshaper there. So now he's coming at him for 8. Says, hey, if you want to sack that guy, basically get him in the way, sure. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with 8. Which would drop him down to 4 life there. Which is pretty tough. Like, this is a difficult board state to be in at this point in time. So he says, I'll block here. This will die. I'll take 5. Dropping to 7. Turn one of my artifacts that costs less than 3. So he's got, I believe, like a 2 cost still in there. Terraria, or whatever, however you pronounce that one. Terrarian is still in his graveyard. So we'll see. Untapping coming out here. Again, lots of mana available. Here's the Mind Stone coming back. Okay. So, looks like David's list running a few more creatures in it. Does have the Ornithopter, an extra blocker, also a 0-cost artifact that he can get back and recast. So, not a bad addition. I've seen some lists that run like Simian Spirit Guides and other creatures in it, not just the usual package of like the Retrievers and Scrap Trawlers, but Scrap Trawlers are really the big push for it. Okay, there's another Mana Rock. David's kind of digging at this point, trying to see if there's a way to help him out here, what he can do to kind of keep himself in here. Like, yes, the problem is if he swings in to go towards Karn, kill that Karn off, he basically is going to kill off Max's creature instead. Like, he'll jump in the way to keep that alive. So he'll add 2 mana, draw a card, and looks like, yep, he says, you know what, I like drawing cards. I'll play another Ichor Wellspring with that 2 mana. Hasn't found a good way to kind of stack any of his creatures. So haven't found the Ironworks yet. No Cart Clan Ironworks going to be coming up yet. But that's one of the things he's hoping for, is to be able to get a way to sack some of these mana rocks. Or just draw rocks, if you will. Doesn't opt to attack here. So, could just be sitting and saying, hey, I'd rather get this guy up to 5 counters. That's more important to me. The other problem is that Max deck has a lot more creatures available to him. Alright, so he's around 20 or so creatures, depending on what exactly his list is at. I don't know if his has more planeswalkers, and like how many Karns he's running. Did he shave down on other removal spells like that some people are running to make room for that? But interesting to see. Alright, so here comes the 8 damage, basically saying, hey, I'll kill you. Block there, I'll tap to put a counter on it. I don't know why you wouldn't put an extra counter on it. There, at that point. Right? You maybe just forgot about the Mox Opal. But yeah, so you get 4 Thopters off that. Have the option to be able to get a 5th. So now he basically could say, hey, I can go wide. Kind of go over top you. You've got the evasion available. So that is kind of a nice, scary thing to be able to do. And we see a tower just get exiled with Karn. So he might be trying for this trickery and say, I'm going to restart the game. Ooh, Worm Coil is going to come down, which is another scary one. The lifelink, Death Touch, 6/6. When it dies, you make a 3/3 lifelink and a 3/3 Death Touch. Ooh, wait a minute. I think I saw an Ironwork in his hand. That would make sense. He could have shaved on some Endbringers for the Karns. Alright, Mana Rock's going to come out. Hasn't sacked any yet. Again, he's at this spot where he doesn't have much to sack yet, but there we go. He really needs to get like a Scrap Trawler or something back here. So we'll sack that, generate 2 mana, draw a card, sack that, generate 2 more mana, draw a card, and he's digging for it, right? So he's got more ways to generate mana, draw cards. At least he can draw 2 more cards here, but if he still hasn't found anything to do with it, it can become an issue. And that's kind of where what he's hoping for at this point. Find a way to cast something. Basically, you can say I'll use 2 of that colorless and be able to generate 2 blue or 2 green, whatever, and draw 2 cards. Academy Runes is always nice. I love that card. That's a way to help get things back. So he's got some 0-cost stuff available to him, some Ornithopters, things like that. Is that an Eldrazi Temple? Interesting. Yeah. Ornithopter. What are you going to do with all that mana? And he says, go score to that. Let's destroy that. We're not even going to play that game. And he has the option to find a basic. I don't know if he runs more than 1 waste, though. Probably not. Spoke too soon. He's got a second. This is a tough spot to be in for David, though. Like, you're staring down a lot of threats here. You know, 2 more mana going to get added in here. And he's going to exile that target permanent. That 7-cost sorcery speed exile target non-land permanent card from, I don't even remember if that was Oath of the Gatewatch or Battle for Zendikar, but one of those sets had this. I don't even remember the name of the card because it's like a draft / limited card. Not something you normally see, but in that situation, you just basically say goodbye, Karn. That was fun. 7 life though makes things a little scary. I mean, 2 Thopters easily can jump in the way of the other creatures. They don't have trample, but the 5 damage is going to be a little tough. So he can say, I'll lose all my Thopters if he wanted to. Ornithopter, you going doing it? So you take 5, go to 2. Now, keeping more Thopters alive is important for if he gets like scrap trawlers, and he's got the Cart Clan Ironworks, so he can use them to generate mana. Alright, Academy Runes lets him be able to put an artifact on top. There's that Terrarian. That's tapped. But without any scrap trawlers or mere retrievers, things are going to be hard pressed to let David claw his way out of game 1 here. 14 points of damage on the board. Can guarantee block, 8 of that damage, but that 5 trample is still going to sneak its way in there. So that's going to be it for game 1. Mac's going to take the lead in this best-of-3 series. And both players are going to go to sideboard here. So things going to be a little bit different. If Max has access to any artifact removal, that would be nice to bring in. You know what you're playing against now once he played that Cart Clan Ironworks. You know the scrap trawlers. It can be only one list, right? That's the only list that are running those particular things. And plus, just sort of all those like mana rocks at the beginning. Ichor Wellsprings is kind of a good indicator that it is this Ironworks combo list. Alright, so players going to be sideboarding and going in, figuring out what their next best plans are. So talk to me, guys. Have you started on that popper train yet? Have you figured out what decks you're going to be playing? Have you seen any cool lists from the Pro Tour that you guys are interested in playing now? Are you pumped up for the Olympics, since that will be starting this weekend? For those that don't know, StarCraft 2 has an IEM. I guess IEM is partnered up with the Olympics to display a StarCraft 2 event right before the Olympics. So it's going on the days leading up to the Olympics because, well, StarCraft in general is like the original esports, the founding esports, especially in the country of South Korea, where, $1 million salaries and major corporations were sponsoring things for StarCraft 1 as well as, StarCraft 2. It's still a big deal for a lot of the country, and a lot of major sponsors still flowing around there. So it makes sense with the event taking place there, and it's only a matter of time before esports starts showing up at more than just esports events. So just a little interesting StarCraft related stuff, since it's going to start doing more StarCraft content soon. Figured I'd talk about it with the Olympics coming up as we wait for the players to draw their 7 cards. Really, like, David's got to hope that he can get those double scrap trawlers going, because when the deck goes, it can be pretty crazy. A couple mana rocks here. Seems like a slower opener there, but I guess why not? I think that might be a little slow, personally, if you're on David's side. I guess he does have some removal available to him with that 7 cost. Exile, non-land permanent. Inventor's Fair's in his hand, so maybe he's thinking that he'll be gaining some life. But again, Max can bring on the pressure and deal a lot of damage quickly. Darksteel Citadel, Mox Opal, pass. Simple, easy start. Here's one of our Tron lands, and a map. Urza power plant. What's the play here? I know he's got a Mind Stone, so he can play a Mind Stone now. Which seems to make the most sense. Play that. Oh, Inventor's Fair, so we can gain some life. Mind Stone. Has access to 2 more mana. Uh-oh. Versus Towers. Looks like it's going to be another turn 3 Tron assembled. Let's see if David remembers his triggers. It's hard to know, though, because if he doesn't like point to the card or anything, we're not going to know. Looks like we're going to say he didn't gain the life. Maybe he did. I didn't see either player write down any life total changes. So I threw up Inventor's Fair in the chat for those that don't remember what the card does. You know, you have to have 3 or more artifacts. It's that Metalcraft thing, but because he had the Mind Stone, the Mox Opal, and the Darksteel Citadel, that gives him the 3. Another Lantern card. Exactly. Another Lantern card. Sometimes you'll see it in Affinity. It's just a good card. Dark Clan, Ironworks going to come down there for 4 mana. So now he's got his mana accelerators. He just needs those mana rocks that he can draw cards off of. So searches up that power plant. So he's got Mine and Tower on the battlefield. Power plant just added to his hand. Great white bordered Tron lands. I'm a fan. Now does he have a Karn? Nope. Mana Reshaper. But with that 4 mana, does he got a Thought Not Seer or anything crazy? Walking Ballista? Anything? It's a lot of cards in hand to only play a Mana Reshaper. Okay. Map pass. Yeah. Alright, untap, draw. Academy Rune's going to hang out. Again, missing this life. Like, David should be at 22 at this point. You know, I don't want this to be a bash on new players kind of thing, because that's never what we do for Modern Magic Mondays. It's more of a learning thing. Is there's a lot of unique lands that David's running, and it sometimes can be hard to remember and keep track of all of the stuff that he needs to keep track of. But you see him go 4 lands, 2 additional mana off of his mana rocks up at the top to be able to put that Overflowing Chalice with 3 counters on it. So he's got access to quite a lot of mana now. 9 mana without sacking any artifacts. Looks like there's still... He's sitting with a mana rock. I believe it's a sphere in his hand. Could be a star from that glimpse. It's hard to tell. Max, of course, going to search up a land with that map and does end up getting another tower, so just kind of accelerating himself out more, right? He now has access to 10 mana, so he's saying, yeah, we're going to play this big mana stuff. That's fine. Guess what? I'm going to cast Ulamog. Cast trigger. I'm going to exile these 2 cards. Now, David could sit here and just sack them. And he'll say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's stacking them with the Cart Clan Ironworks to be able to do this, but he at least gets it off the battlefield and says, yeah, I'll lose different things. This sucks. But I at least get rid of your Ulamog. But now, David's only sitting with 4 mana. He lost his Mox Opal, so his only way to generate colored mana currently, so he can't start reassembling stuff now. But he does have ways to get it back here, right? 2 mana, draw a card. There's the Ichor Wellspring that was played. Here's our Chromatic Sphere coming down. Can tap, pay 1, add any color to your mana pool, draw a card when you sack it. And that Overflowing Chalice is going to kind of float around his hand. Now, based on how he had to tap things out, there's no way he could have got any of his stuff back for next turn. But, you know, he's now set up that he could start getting things back. Oh my gosh. The second Ulamog. Max just feeling great about it. Says, let's exile those 2. Come at you for 3. Ouch. David having dropped to 17 there. Should be a little bit higher based on that Inventor's Fair, but that's okay. Ouch is right. So again, I want to stand by it. I want to run a poll at some point. What is more frustrating to play against? Tron, Storm, or Lantern Control? I'm just curious. David's sitting here wishing he had all that mana he had earlier, because he's going to take 13 points of damage, having to exile the top 20 cards, and there's a good chance he could lose big combo pieces by doing it. Yeah. Does he have a Reality Smasher just to, like, end the game here? Walking Ballista. Oh, for 5. Kill you. 13 damage, shoot you for 5. Wow. That's how you do it, guys. Ulamog. Oh, yeah, you can exile it. Next turn, Ulamog, exile all your stuff. Okay, and then here's 10 mana sunk into this Walking Ballista. Okay, so I put up the question for those that are wondering where all this chat is coming from in the last game of, you know, what's more frustrating to play against. Tron, Storm, or Lantern Control. So, Sinister saying Storm, definitely not Tron or Lantern. Certainly not, because I run one of those and it has a good matchup against the other. There you go. Gaxian, I can never pronounce names. Where's Brett when you need him? Apologize for butchering your name. But you're saying the most frustrating is probably Lantern, because you're fighting for those small percentage outs, whereas Storm and Tron, you know you're dead. And that's the thing. It's like, all right, I'm clearly dead. I can scoop. I think that is the other interesting thing is a lot of people that, you know, they're playing against that Lantern, and you might seem really close to being locked out, but there is that, like, tiny percentage where it's like, no, if I can get things set up and I can drag it out a little bit more, I've got these ways to shuffle my library away and draw these cards and stuff like this and do these small little things that I might just barely have a tiny percentage chance of being able to come back, where I think a lot of people don't like to scoop to Lantern. Even like when they're in that locked out phase where it's like, okay, they have a Witchbane's Orb, they have a Lantern of Insight, they have an Academy of Runes, they have the Codex Shredders, they're set up there to completely cycle what you draw and cycle their Codex Shredder, get things back, and do this recurring thing, but people don't want to scoop against it. So so Sinister made a really good point there. Is that's the thing, when do you concede versus Lantern? You want to think that you have a chance to win, even if you don't. Like it's tough. Where it's like Tron and Storm, it's like you can see with Storm, they're like, okay, here I've generated all this mana, and now I'm just going through the motions here of flash everything back. I'm going to play this, generate a bunch more mana, draw a bunch more cards. I'm just building my Storm count now of playing the same spells over and over again. I have the Grape Shot, you're dead, but I'll go through the motions for you, kind of thing. Tron is that whole, frustratingness when they land an Ulamog on you, or they've got that Karn just sort of picking apart your stuff, and but people are like, I can attack Tron's lands and I can do things like that, so you feel more interactive against those. I love this. Benjamin Barry saying, make a million L's and cast a Shaman of the Pack. Love it. So we've got 2 rounds in the books, guys. Love the discussion. Keep it coming. I like being able to sit here and have these discussions about different decks in Modern, because the format is phenomenal right now. There's so many great decks to be out there playing. You get to do all kinds of cool stuff. That's the other thing too. It's like Storm takes a couple of minutes. You can get things going quickly. Tron might take a little bit longer. The games might be a little bit longer, but you feel like you're doing more. It's more back and forth. While Lantern does feel like it can be a little one-sided. Like Storm can be that solitaire game where once they start doing stuff, you just sit there and you just wait. Do you have it yet? Did you kill me? No? Alright. Let me know when you kill me. I'm not going to concede. You keep tapping your mana, keep playing your stuff. That's fine. I'll let me know when you're ready. Where like Lantern Control, you're just like, if only my one card gets to the top and he doesn't mill it off, I might be able to get there. Come on. Or they're taking a little while to assemble their pieces they need. So I can understand. I like Lantern Control a lot. I like the deck. It's a really complicated, hard to pilot deck, and I like rewarding skilled decks and play like that. I like that answer right there too. From a competitive standpoint, you only scoop when there's no out. There's an argument to never scoop, banking on a small chance your opponent slips up, but I'm not a fan. I'd rather die to turn 3 Karn and take a break between rounds. Yeah, we've talked about it on stream. Brett and I have had this conversation before, is make them have it. And he kind of got that mentality, and I like it a lot too. He's got that mentality when he was playing Infect versus one of those Abzan Company or the core-based decks where they're like, here's my Kitchen Finks. This is like old school too. It's Kitchen Finks, Viscera Seer, Anafenza the Foremost kind of thing. I'm going to make an infinite amount of life. And most people would be like, alright, we'll scoop kind of thing. But he was playing Infect, and they had not been able to get him a Lyra out, so he was like, yeah, fine, get a million life. That's fine. I don't care. And it's like, what? You're not going to scoop? And, make them have it, guys. So, Pop talking about if you are on a 1% or less, the time for more games may be needed. So there's that whole aspect of it, too. Especially, I would rather scoop up game 1 earlier. And have more time for game 2 and 3, knowing that I've got more options available to me in the sideboard, because I would rather do that than sit there, and take forever on a game where I know that it's like, well, there's one card, there's just one, but if I get it, it's great. So I don't know, but everyone plays their own game. We got to talk about that. So let's hop over though to round 3, and we can keep talking about this, guys. Love the discussion.